Welcome to the TMB Women in Business podcast, created for the aspiring CEO. Every week, we provide you with tips on all things business and entrepreneurship. You'll hear from industry leaders on topics such as marketing, business growth, and branding. This podcast is hosted by Mahi Kolla, the 16-year-old teen entrepreneur behind the Minty Boutique, a luxe stationery company with a mission to change the world. Hi guys, welcome back to the TMB Women in Business podcast. Today, I'm excited to share with you how I define and how you can define your company brand. Of course, branding is so important. It's your company's story that you tell your customers through the colors, fonts, and way you express your brand and your company. That is what your brand is. It's your why and your story shown through the way you depict your products, the way you market yourself. All of that stuff is your brand. And obviously, you can see it's really important to make sure you have a cohesive brand, one that your customer can follow and is seen through all of your content, is projected through the way you write captions, what kind of YouTube videos you post. It's projected in the experience they have on your website, your language in emails they receive. All this kind of stuff is your brand. And when you're starting out, if you don't know how to define your brand, it's going to be extremely hard to convey that brand to your customer. Because if you can't define it yourself, how can you expect them to define it? The end goal is for a customer to see a product, a post, or an email, or anything online, anything, and if they can identify, oh yeah, that's this person's brand or that's this company, then you've successfully achieved a cohesive brand. Because no matter what you put out, based on the way it's designed, the colors you use, the style, or anything like that, those are the parts of a brand, then you have achieved a cohesive brand because they can identify it no matter what product or whatever you put out. And today I want to share with you guys how you can do that, how you can start defining your company brand and then implementing it, and then talk about how I've implemented it to give you guys examples of what you can do. So the first step to defining your company brand is much more of a holistic question and isn't always conveyed in your marketing or, in the colors you use or the aesthetic you have. But it's something that will be conveyed in the word choice, in the stories that you tell your customers, in the way you convince your customer to buy your product. And that's your why or company story. Your why is so incredibly important because it is what pushes you to keep growing. It's what pushes you to keep going despite any obstacles and grow from those obstacles. It's your purpose. And of course, your purpose is so important. So my first step is to just sit down and think, why am I doing this? Why do I so desperately want to build this company, and why do I want it to grow? What is making me or forcing me or willing me to continue? Why am I not just giving up right now? Write down every single reason, and from those, create a phrase or a sentence that describes your why, and write that down somewhere. Put it everywhere, you guys. Your why, if you're reminded of your why every single day, you will be able to reflect that in all the content you put out. This is the same as your story. A lot of nonprofits are started because the founders have experienced or seen the struggle that someone is going through, or they've seen some of the hardships in the world and they want to do something about it. And when you ask them, why are you doing this? They will always start off by telling you that story. I experienced this and I was shocked and I wanted to do something about it. And that's such a noble cause. And when you and I hear that, we are already like, oh my God, that's that's such an incredible story. I completely see that hardship and I want to do something about it. And it makes you feel empowered to do something, which is why storytelling is so compelling. So knowing your why or your story that goes behind the founding of your company and why you started and why you continue to grow is going to help you reach, like, it's going to help you really know why you're doing this. And that's going to help define your company brand. The second thing you should do is build your customer persona. Your customer persona is a way you can define who your customer is and who your target is when you are marketing. This is so important and should be one of the first steps you do. Once you decide your product, you need to know who's going to be buying this. And a lot of people actually will create draw out a person or find like a picture online. For a recent company I was working on, we were targeting moms who were really busy and they wanted to be able to get through grocery stores really quickly. And so we literally looked up a stock image of a woman who was holding there was a child in her cart and she was walking through the grocery store. And then we gave her a name. We gave her like, this is how many kids she has. On a typical weekend, she has all these tasks. She's super busy as a mom. And we gave her all this backstory and built a customer persona. And we also included, what are her struggles? And her struggles should, of course, include the problem that your company is solving. And in your customer persona, you will be able to define the exact person you're marketing to. So every time you come up with a marketing strategy, you can think, like, let's say I named that grocery store mom Karen, and I said, here we're trying out this new marketing strategy. If Karen saw this, would she want to buy our product? And that is such a great way to test out your marketing. But it also will help you define your company brand because you want Karen, every time she sees something your company puts out, to be inspired, to want to go click on it and look at it more and then purchase it. So by defining your customer persona, you're able to almost validate and check everything you're putting out to make sure that your target customer would be enticed by the content or enticed by the wording that you're putting out, because she is who you will eventually buy, who will eventually buy from you. And that's such an important step. My next step is to create a brand board. And for especially companies that do a lot of marketing on social media or on their website and stuff, it's so important to create a brand board because your brand board will make sure all of your colors, your fonts, the aesthetic of your brand is consistent. I love creating brand boards either on, Pinterest. I can save images of the pictures, the colors I like. I can save images, also pictures, like what kind of pictures would I be taking? You can save fonts, all that stuff to a Pinterest board. I also like saving pictures to my Instagram saved pictures. I created a folder that's like my brand board for my company, and every time I see a picture that's like, oh my god, that screams my brand, and I like the colors they use, the filter they use, I will save it. And when I scroll back through that folder, I am automatically like, yeah, that looks like my brand. That is my aesthetic. That is the way I want customers to perceive my brand. And it inspires me and holds me accountable to making sure everything that I put out is like that brand board and it fits that brand board. And of course, you can also do a physical one, which I love doing. You can just put up a vision board or like a cork board, one of the wire boards somewhere up in your office, your room, anywhere, and start putting up pictures that, as I said, maybe you just print out the pictures from your Pinterest board and pin them up. And when you have it all together, you should have your colors, your fonts, the type of the pictures you would be taking, the aesthetic. And when you look at that board, I want you to be able to imagine your brand and your company. when you look at that board, I want it to actually scream, this is your company. This is what your company looks like from the outside. That is what a brand board does. And that's will also hold you accountable, as I said, especially if you have it somewhere like your office, your phone, whenever you're posting content. If you hold the two side by side, does it look like your brand and does it look like something your company produced? And that will help you. And of course, with all of that, once you've done the background work, it's time to start creating content that revolves around your brand. And it can be hard. I have an episode recently that I did about choosing social media channels, which I think would be really helpful if you guys are still deciding like which social media is worth my time and which one will give me the strongest following, the most loyal customers, and lead to sales. And you guys can definitely check that episode out. But I also think what the content you're putting out, no matter what platform it is, it really, really should reflect your brand. And as I was saying, from the first 3 steps, you should have already figured out what your brand is. And then you need to figure out, okay, now that I know what my brand is, what kind of content does my brand include? If you are a agency of some kind, Instagram might be the one for you where all of your captions are giving tips to your customers or something like that. If you are a fashion blogger, maybe you want to do YouTube and every week you're putting out weekly style vlogs or something where you show the outfits you wore the last week. And that not only gives you consistent content, but you're always creating content that's based on your brand and whatever style you have. Telling your story. As we talked about in number 1, you've already defined and found your why and or company story. So through the content you're putting out, start telling your story. Start being personal with your followers and start telling them, here's why I'm doing all of this. That will help them be so much more loyal to your brand because they know, hey, this is what my brand is. This is what that company is all about. And I love them. I want to support them. Here's how. And then you tell them, here's how you can support me. And that will lead automatically to organic sales. So the last thing I want to talk about is real quickly, I want to go through how I've done this for my business. And this will help you guys actually learn like how these steps have helped me create a brand and one that I can immediately spot no matter where I go. And I have customers who can do that too. So first of all, my why and my story. I started my stationery company, the Minty Boutique, 4 years ago when I was just 12 years old. And my parents gave me a $20 bill, and this is a story I love telling. I gave me a $20 bill to start an Etsy shop. I went to Michael's, I bought a few things, and I spent that summer basically kind of planning out my business as much as I could as a 12-year-old. I by no means had it all planned out. I basically just knew here were the products I wanted to sell. And I think I created an Instagram account during the summer, started posting a little bit here and there. And that was it. That was all I did. I definitely think, and we'll talk about in other podcast interviews, there should be at least some more planning. But what I love about that story is I just didn't care. I just wanted to start a company, so I went for it. I didn't wait till I had the perfect business plan, the perfect investors. I just went for it. And that comes with, of course, like being so young and not having to depend on the company and I just didn't care. It was just something fun I was doing. But it does, lend a hand to how you should just go for it. Just go for it. And that was something I started at 12 years old. 4 years later, I started that company because I love stationery. I love notebooks, pens, everything, and I wanted to make some of my own. And as the years grew on, the reason that I continued was not only was I love entrepreneurship and business, and through this podcast, I hope you guys learn that about me. It is so inspiring, and being able to be your own boss, take charge of your career, that is something that I love so much about entrepreneurship, which is why I wanted to start a business at least in the first place. I started stationery because I love stationery. And as the years went on, my company became much more minimalistic, functional, luxe, and professional. Those are the words I would use to describe my company, because I found that a lot of the planners you can buy at, let's say, Target, Staples, Walmart, any of these kind of big name stationery stores are so focused on having very cutesy colors, being very bright, fun, colorful, that a lot of the times I imagine, like, even for me, going to school or going into professional meetings for my business, I never felt comfortable carrying in like a bright floral planner with, pictures of like a hibiscus on the front and with a very like gorgeous cover, but it was so bright and loud that I didn't feel comfortable bringing it into a professional meeting. And if I at now I'm 16, and if I'm feeling like that, I couldn't imagine what how someone who was walking into a boardroom meeting would feel like carrying in a bright cutesy planner, when already as women in business we already are, there's so few of us out there, and our image is so important, especially in business. I just couldn't imagine that, and I wanted to create productivity tools that would help these women not only build their careers, build their businesses, pursue that side hustle, but do it in a way that they felt super comfortable and confident carrying in these products. I wanted to empower these women to take their life in their hands and, oh shit. I wanted to empower these women to grab a hold of their life and use their time so wisely, and to be able to become masters of their time and know what they're doing. And that's why this company is so important to me, and that's my why. That's my story. I want to empower women, make them feel confident and powerful when they're in these important business meetings, when they are planning out their lives and their goals. That's my why. And as you can hear, I hope you can hear, I'm very passionate about this. And because I'm so passionate about it's conveyed in the products, in my quality, in what the things we put out, the content, all of that stuff. I hope this message is consistent through all of it. And so that's my why. Um, B, or number two, is my customer persona. So as you guys heard, I find that a lot of the people purchasing are very busy female entrepreneurs. I like to say they lead a boss lifestyle where they're always on the go. They have a lot of things on their mind, and they want to create this planning system that is perfect for their busy lives, where they can, in the same planner, they can be taking notes while they're planning out their day. Then they can be, planning out their meals, all of this stuff they can all do in one book. So that's my customer persona. In my brand board, as I mentioned, I have the brand board on my Instagram and my Instagram saved folder. I also have the brand board in my office. So I have a pinned up board where I have pictures, and I have our fonts and our most used colors, stuff like that, color codes. All that stuff is up on a board for me to reference. And every time I look at it, I just know, like, that screams the Minty Boutique. And I know that every time I look at it. My last thing is, of course, the content. The content we put out on our Instagram mainly showcases our products, but because I knew I was targeting this customer persona, I also wanted to post pictures where I'm or people are using, or I'm using the products while I am leading a very busy lifestyle, or show like the girl boss, like how they can use these products to plan out their life and their goals. In my YouTube videos, I try to do the same, and all of that. So that's kind of content I'm putting out. And in my brand, that lends so easily to my brand and my why and my story. So as you guys can see, it's taken a while. It really has taken 4 years to develop this brand that I am in love with. I feel like I'm able to, everything I put out fits this brand, and I love that so much that it all works together. But it's taken a while to get here, which is why I suggest starting now. Start figuring out what it is you want to do, why you're doing all this, and just go from there. With that, that's it for me today. I hope you guys learned something, and this episode of defining your brand was extremely helpful. I love sharing like these tips, but also how it applies to my business and my why, my story. I love sharing that with you guys. If you guys have any questions or need help, any advice while you're defining your company brand, feel free to reach out on social media, on through our email, our website, anything like that. I would love to chat with you guys. It means so much when you reach out, and I'm always thankful. Whenever you guys listen, leave a review, anything like that, I'm always so thankful. And with that, thank you guys so, so much for watching or listening, sorry. And I will see you guys next week on Sunday with a new episode. Bye, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the TMB Women in Business podcast. Check out our Instagram, where we provide you with the answers to all the questions you have about entrepreneurship. For an email recap of this week's episode, join our email list at tiny.cc/TMBWIBEMAIL. If you want to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs where I give case-by-case advice to you, join our Facebook group. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen. If you're listening to this episode on our YouTube channel, subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next week with even more business advice.